This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are we doing today, this Tuesday? This is the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. You're watching us on the Bama Central YouTube channel. We appreciate everybody who is checking us out right there. Or you're watching us on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither 6. You might be listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Amazon. The Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. We appreciate everybody who subscribed, rated, and reviewed the show on their favorite podcast platform. And we are going to talk about this past Saturday night's game. And we're going to start looking ahead at Wisconsin. We had a lot of fun over the weekend. So much fun that it took us deep into Sunday night rewatching Alabama and South Florida's game. So basically what happened to me Monday was go to the coaches' press conference and then pass on out because I was up till about 5, 6, 7 a.m. on Sunday night, Monday morning, rewatching the game. Drug myself to the coach's press conference and then kind of called it a day. So here we are. We have spent time with Alabama's players on Tuesday. We will spend time with assistant coaches tomorrow. But we need to talk about the South Florida game, and really now is a great time to do that before we set the table for Wisconsin, because we have now really wrapped it up by hearing from the assistant coach, from the offensive and defensive coordinator, and from Kalen DeBoer, and hearing from several players, their perspective on the game twice for some of the players, depending on who it was. Some were available in the post-game press conference, and you can see all of these interviews on the Bama Central YouTube channel. But what we're going to do is talk about the Alabama offensive line, talk about a standout on the defensive side of the football. We'll talk about Alabama's depth, Jalen Milroe in his game against South Florida. We'll talk about Alex Golesh, the South Florida coaching staff, and we'll wrap it on up before we get into the Wisconsin game. Before we jump into any and all of that, we want to tell you about our friends at Purple Turtle Roofing. Purple Turtle Roofing is the most reliable residential roof replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi. Whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. Purple Turtle Roofing is the leading expert in local residential roofing solutions, specializing in providing unparalleled service and quality craftsmanship for all your roof replacement needs. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5 for your free roof inspection. That's 877-787-PT-ROOF-5, 787-6635. To schedule your appointment, and one of their qualified employees will come check out your roof for free. That's 877-787-6635 to make sure that you're prepared for any and all of life's storms. So let's talk about the game on Saturday. Did y'all enjoy it? You can let me know in the comments section at Joe Gaither 6 your thoughts on the ball game on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Alabama beats South Florida 42-16. Okay, they blew them out. Woohoo! 2-0. Everything is all good in Tuscaloosa, right? Whoo, boy. It was a fun game on Saturday. It was a really interesting game on Saturday. It was a chess match on Saturday, and it was a really interesting look at how the coaches deal with injuries, how the coaches deal with availability, and it all started with what you saw up front with Alabama's offensive line. You rolled out Tyler Booker playing left tackle. What? Tyler Booker, not Elijah Pritchett, playing left tackle. You roll out Geno Vandermark playing left guard, Parker Brailsford, Jaden Roberts, and Wilkin Formby. Okay, we're used to that from the center on down to the right side. But the left side, we are jacking all the way up to play the South Florida Bulls, who are coming into Tuscaloosa with all kinds of belief, coming off, a 43 to win over nobody, Central Bethune-Cookman. Again, so they're coming into Tuscaloosa, playing some backup offensive linemen. Oh, isn't this the scenario last year playing out all over again? Tyler Booker unavailable last season. Caden Proctor really struggling last year. Seemed a lot of familiarities carried over, a lot of familiarities you didn't want to see. A lot of penalties, a lot of miscues. You had Kool-Aid McKinstry on a punt return last season with a fumble. You have a fumble return on a kick return this year, Kendrick Law. You have a jammed up snap on the goal line. Oh my gosh, basically a major swing. South Florida didn't gain anything off of the fumble snap, but you have the fumble snap there. Up Jam Miller, you're going to have a nice little run, and boom, you're going to fumble it away as well. So a lot of issues on Saturday, as I think that you had Kalen DeBoer called it the team trying too hard. I think there was certainly a sense of that going on, trying too hard while mitigating a lot of issues. So let's talk about the offensive line, because that's where it all begins. And everybody wants to talk about Wilkin Formby playing right tackle. And boy, Wilkin did not have a good game. And it made me ask, I asked Nick Sheridan yesterday, and we asked Tyler Booker today about the communication up front on the offensive line and kind of how the shuffling affected that. And both guys, Nick Sheridan gave a nice and political answer, and Tyler Booker basically said that communication was fine. Everybody communicated the same. It was just different voices. Nick Sheridan saying, oh, well, we decided to play the 5 guys who got the most reps together up front this week. And so it made you wonder what in the world was going on with Elijah Pritchett. After the game, coach saying that he's dealing with an injury of sorts. And I wonder what the severity is of that injury. I was going to ask if I got a second question, really how close Elijah Pritchett was to playing. That's where Nick Sheridan, I did ask Sheridan this. That's where Sheridan said we played the 5 guys who were who got the most reps together. I don't know really what's going on with Elijah Pritchett, whether he is actually injured or whether he's dealing with a small knock, or whether it is a discipline issue, whether he's not showing in practice, whether he's not putting in enough work out the field. I think that there's a lot of interesting, a lot of things that could be going on with Elijah Pritchett. You put him in at the end of the game, and basically Alabama gives the knockout blow. The defensive line was already tired at that point, or was Elijah Pritchett that much better? That's up for debate. But Wilkin Formby really, really, really struggled. Really, the whole offensive line struggled. It wasn't like it was just on the freshman. The whole offensive line struggled, and really, it was about the South Florida game plan. The South Florida game plan, they were bringing defenders from all over the place on the field, mixing up their looks. Defensive coordinator Todd Orlando just brought everything, and it wasn't all the time. It was sometimes they played straight up. We're going to rush the 4 down, the 4 front linemen. Sometimes it was, we're going to rush 5 and drop somebody out from the front side. There was a lot of interesting rushes, and so look, you complicated an offensive line that was already in makeshift fashion with a defense that was going to be very, very, very aggressive to try to get penetration. And I was I ended up in the visitors' locker room. I ended up listening to Alex Golish's press conference, and he basically said our goal was to contain Jalen Milroe, and they certainly did that. I mean, they sacked him 3 times. They got officially on the score sheet, 3-4 quarterback hurries. They held Jalen Milroe to just 2 total yards. Obviously, the sack yardage plays into that, but on the score sheet, he's held to 2 total yards. He ran for 2 touchdowns as well and threw for 2 touchdowns, but they contained him on the ground mostly, and they got after him in the pocket. And so really, the Alabama offensive line had a bad day. But I don't know that I want to take too much away from it. I don't know that I want to say too many bad things about the Alabama offensive line, and I definitely don't want to say too many bad things about Wilkin Formby. I don't want to say too many bad things about Gino Vandermark. I do think that there's a reason Gino Vandermark is your backup along the interior. Obviously, he had a tough day. He ended up with 3 penalties. I mean, the offensive line ended up with 9 penalties in the entire game. Only 8 were accepted because you have one of Wilkin Formby's holding calls offset by a pass interference call. Tough day all around up front. 9 penalties up front. You have 6 holding calls up front. 1 block in the back. Tyler Booker, even playing left tackle, your best offensive lineman gets kicked out there. He even has 2 penalties himself. 1 block in the back and a false start. Gino Vandermark, 2 holding and a false start. Wilkin Formby, 4 holding. Only 30 were accepted, but just a very, very tough day with the offensive line met by a defense that was very aggressive. And so you got guys playing out of position, and I wonder how that's going to go going forward. I think it's going to be really interesting this week as Alabama goes into Wisconsin, goes into Madison. Are you going to see Caden Proctor healthy? I think that you will. I think you will see Caden Proctor playing left tackle, and he will be back out there for Alabama. I think that the coaching staff played it a little bit fast and loose here. I think that if you had said this was a Super Bowl, this was an SEC championship game, this was a game against Georgia, this was a game against Auburn, this was a game that you had to have a playoff game per se, then I think you would have seen Caden Proctor and Elijah Pritchett out there. I mean, think about the original game plan for the year. The original game plan for the year was Proctor, Brooker, Brailsford, Roberts, and a rotation of Formby and Pritchett, figuring out who's going to play right tackle. Well, you already had to throw that game plan out of the window right off the bat because Proctor goes down. Well, somebody's got to play full-time left tackle. Boom, Pritchett, you're in. You play pretty decently. Obviously, you got some snaps in the Western Kentucky game that you'd like to have back, but there were some really, really good snaps as well. Offense puts up 63 points and everything rolls. Obviously, the Western Kentucky defense is nothing too great off of. Well, next week, you realize Elijah Pritchett's picked up an injury of his own. Can he play left tackle? Who's going to play left tackle? What do you do? Well, do you play Miles McVay? Do you swap Wilkin Formby from right to left and play Miles McVay at right tackle? Do you play Naquil Bertram? What do you do here? It creates a big complication if Elijah Pritchett isn't quite healthy. But I wonder if he really was healthy because of what he did when he went into the game. I wonder, okay, was he just sucking up a minor injury, or was the coaching staff just saying, okay, we can beat South Florida without him. We can get another week resting Caden Proctor and Elijah Pritchett. Was it just kind of a gamble? And the gamble certainly misfired if both players were healthy enough to play. Obviously, I think Caden Proctor was much more in the we're going to take this as a precaution category than Elijah Pritchett. I think that Elijah Pritchett could have played and could have started. The coach basically kind of alluded to that afterwards, and then basically to say, okay, basically they got to break glass in case of emergency. You've gotten up by 8 points here at 13-21, and then your next drive you throw Pritchett out there, and it's bam, 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 knockout punch, and the blowout is on. It's very interesting for the coaching staff, from my opinion, the approach that they took to the availability. Instead of saying, okay, Caden Proctor, suck it up and you got to give it a go. Instead of, Elijah Pritchett, suck it up and you got to give it a go, it's let's move our best offensive lineman, who's been playing left guard basically his entire career, out to left tackle. And let's play. I mean, you got Geno Vandermark for a reason. And I do think that he is a quality backup interior player. He's not going to be, I don't want him out there on the field in crunch time against the Georgia Bulldogs. I'd much rather see Tyler Booker, Parker Brailsford, and Jaden Roberts. But I think that if he ended up having to be out there, then, okay, you're not dead in the water. I don't know that he's going to be a world beater by any means, but that's what you decide to do. You decide to opt to say, okay, you got Geno Vandermark. He's got college experience. He's got high-level college experience. We're going to kick Tyler Booker out to play left tackle and say, you know what? You're the best offensive lineman we got. Figure it out. And he did figure it out. He played okay. He didn't play bad. But I really was just disappointed in the communication along the offensive line. You had issues where the offensive line sliding one way, letting a defensive tackle come right through the middle and saying, okay, Jam Miller, you got to block defensive tackle. What? Don't make any sense. Some of the blocking schemes that we saw, you had a couple of different times. Wilkin Formby was guessing as far as which one of his men, and you've got a free defender going right past him. Right? Same sort of thing with Jaden Roberts. You just had a communication issue as far as deciphering who's dealing with the twists, who's dealing with how we're passing this off. Are we slide protecting or are we man blocking? I think you had a real issue. And I just want to address, you're seeing a lot of this on Twitter. You're seeing a lot of the Wilkin Formby holding call where the defensive lineman just kind of gets kind of gets tripped up on himself, and Wilkins kind of just hanging on a little bit, and people saying this is not a holding call. Everybody saying, oh, this is a bad call. And yeah, I think it's a very, very, very ticky-tack call, and it's not a very good call either. But here's the deal. You have had a bad reputation throughout the game so far. You've been struggling through the game so far. You've been under the referee's microscope so far. And so if they're going to see something that, oh, that looks like a holding or that could be a holding, we're going to call it. They're going to call it. And so while I do think that a couple of instances, the officials took it a little harsh on Alabama, you had even one on Giovanna Mark that I thought was, okay, this is a little tough. But if they're thinking, okay, this offensive line has been struggling, I think that you lost the benefit of the doubt, basically, is my point. And so it was just a tough day up front with the guys shuffling out of position and the aggressive and creative defensive play calling. And I think that really South Florida played with a nothing to lose mindset, and we'll get into that. I want to give that South Florida a lot of credit. Jason Vaughn chopping away at Wilkin for me. That was just a really tough matchup for Wilkin the whole night. And he's a redshirt freshman. He didn't play last year. He's a young guy. And look, a lot of people going onto social media, getting after Wilkin. I understand your disappointment in his play and definitely understand the fact that you think that Alabama has a standard to uphold, and he didn't uphold it on Saturday night for sure. But no one knows that better than Wilkin. Tyler Booker basically saying we're encouraging Wilkin to flush this performance and move on. I think that's all you can do. You should say, you know what, I had a bad night. A good player kicked my butt. An older player kicked my butt. And I just got to learn from it and move on. What happened with Caden Proctor last season? Struggled early in the year, struggled against Texas, struggled early in the year, got better through the year, and became a pretty quality left tackle last year. That's why I'm really excited or really anticipating his first snaps of the year, which I think will come this coming week in Wisconsin. And Wilkin will grow from this. That's why I'm very curious to see what happens this week with Wisconsin. Are you playing, if Caden's healthy, boom, he's playing left tackle. What do you do at right tackle? Do you say, okay, Wilkin, you had a bad night, you're going up there to play in Camp Randall Stadium? Or are you saying, okay, Elijah Pritchett, you had a good 6 snaps, and again, 6 snaps against a defense that by that time was pretty gassed out. 6 snaps. Obviously, Alabama scoring a couple of touchdowns and making it pretty important 6 snaps, but are you playing Elijah Pritchett at right tackle this week, or are you playing Wilkin Formby saying, okay, we're giving him another go at it to see what happens up there at Camp Randall Stadium? So I want to give Jason Vaughn, I want to give Todd Orlando a lot of credit, and I want to just say that it really junked up Alabama's offense. I mean, how many 3-and-outs did you have? How many frustrating performances did you have? All the penalties. I mean, you had two touchdowns called back. And basically that blew your cover. That blew your over. Alabama winning by 26 points? Yeah, 26 points. One of those touchdowns would have given you your cover. One of those touchdowns would have given you your over because your total was 58. Touchdown is 6 points. It would have given you 4, and that would have given you your over. And so, Joe, you blow your bet there. Sorry about that. For anybody who's tailing my gambling advice, I would encourage you not to tail my gambling advice. I would encourage you to take my gambling advice and just file it away as, oh, that's interesting. Because that's what I do to anybody else's gambling advice. And so we won both the cover and the over against Western Kentucky. We lost against South Florida. We'll see what we can do. Alabama's a 15-point favorite against Wisconsin. I haven't looked at what the total is yet. We'll get into that later on in the week, but I'm sorry if you followed me on that. I want to also give credit to Byron Brown. Byron Brown playing quarterback for South Florida, obviously struggled throwing the football. Struggled throwing the football down the field. Had a lot of opportunities to get after Alabama early down the field and just missed. Couldn't connect with receivers. And I think that Alex Golish had a good plan to get after the Alabama defense. A lot of quarterback run, a lot of design quarterback run. And I think that really you got Alabama moving left to right, side to side, and a lot of quick screens action. Didn't get vertical as much as probably they would have liked to. And I think part of that was Byron Brown's accuracy or inaccuracy. And so I want to give Byron Brown a lot of credit coming into Bryant-Denny Stadium, into Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium, that part getting dedicated on Saturday night. So I thought he played a very, very fearless game despite the obvious accuracy deficiency in his game. 108 yards passing, 103 yards rushing. 108 yards rushing, 103 yards passing for Byron Brown. A better game for Byron Brown than he did last year. It'll be interesting. He's redshirt sophomore. Will he be here? Will he be at the game in 2026? Will he be a senior coming back to Tuscaloosa as a senior quarterback for Alex Golesh? It'll be interesting. I think that's going to be interesting for South Florida. Will either quarterback and coach be back in 2026? You see a lot of people saying, "Oh, Greg Byrne, buy out the 2026 matchup. I don't want to play South Florida again." I don't feel that way. I feel like South Florida has shown has given Alabama exactly what they've wanted in these early games. I mean, Nick Saban, every time he scheduled these early games with Western Kentucky and MTSU and Jackson, San Jose States and Kent States of the world that you've scheduled over the years, that USF, doesn't quite fall into that category. Remember, they play in the American Conference. So they're kind of that mid-tier group of five. They're in that group of five. You want to get somebody who's going to test you early, who's going to show you good tape, who's going to give you good tape early to correct. And that's exactly what South Florida's done the last two seasons. Obviously, you got your tape for Western Kentucky was, look at how good you are. You should be confident. You're going to have a good season. Look how many touchdowns you can score, right? Western Kentucky didn't really threaten you. TJ Finley came in here and quit. Byron Brown did not. Byron Brown came into Tuscaloosa and fought all four quarters. And really was supported by a game plan that allowed him to do so and tried to overcome an accuracy issue, but just couldn't quite get there. This is exactly what you wanted out of an early game. Everybody talked about Alabama's learning moments from last season, and you get another 60 minutes of learning moments on tape. So give a lot of credit to South Florida, their defense to Byron Brown. But stopping Byron Brown was the Alabama defense. And goodness gracious, if you like defensive line play, if you like defensive tackle play, this was the game for you. Oh, my goodness. Tim Keenan put on an absolute clinic. And Damon Payne didn't play bad himself, right? Backing him up. Neither did Tim Smith, Jaheim Otis. They all had good games. But Tim Keenan stood out to me. SEC co-defensive lineman of the week. Obviously stood out to the conference office as well. But throughout the entire night, plugging holes, right? Neutralizing offensive linemen, rushing from the interior. I mean, when's the last great interior Alabama defensive lineman? Think about it. It was probably Quinnen Williams, right? Was there anybody in between? I mean, a lot of people talk about Phil Mathis. A lot of people talk about Christian Barmore in that category. And yeah, they both had flashes. Neither of them played with the consistency that Quinnen Williams played. Neither of them played with the consistency that Jonathan Allen played with. And really, Jonathan Allen was just a little bit different, a little more of a defensive end. I'm talking more of the tackle, nose guard, the interior defensive line position. I mean, Josh Chapman was a butt kicker and still is as a coach, but not really as a penetrator. I just love Tim Keenan's game, and I think that the defense, the 4-2-5 swarm defense, has allowed him to showcase his abilities a bit better for the National Football League. In the Nick Saban defense, he basically played zero technique the entire time, basically played head up the whole time, and essentially played two gap, the A gap, in basically 98% of the snaps, right? I think that Tim Keenan in this 4-2-5 defense has been able to showcase exactly his transformation at Alabama. Jamarian Latham today saying that he came to Alabama, lost a little bit of weight, and then obviously has shaped himself. He just plays with such an intensity and such a maturity. You watch him in between defensive series every time Alabama's offense put the Alabama defense in bad positions after turnover, right? After, okay, we're punting again. Oh my gosh, we gave you the ball at the midfield and you didn't do anything. Every single time and Alabama's defense got put out there. It's Tim Keenan. It's Big 96 dancing out there, just getting everybody hyped up, getting everybody excited to play. And when you have that from the defensive line, when you have that from the front line guy, like, okay, I'm excited to kind of go to battle. I'm excited to, put myself out there and really get after it. I think it permeates through the whole defense. On Saturday night, 9 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2.5 tackles for a loss, 1 quarterback hurry. And he was just a monster all over the field, kicking the South Florida offensive lineman's tail. Tyler Booker basically talking about him today, saying that how much he really helps improve Tyler Booker's game because the two of those guys going after each other. And I'm just really impressed. Look, I know a lot of you guys watch football by watching the football on each and every snap, but I know a lot of you guys don't. And so I would encourage you to sometimes take a few snaps. Whenever Tim Keenan's on the field this week against Wisconsin, Big Noon Sports, right? You're sitting there, Fox Sports, and you're watching those jerseys go back and forth. Put your eye. Just say, you know what, no matter what, I'm watching 96 on this play. And you'll see a player who, whether the play is going his way or not, he is going 100 miles an hour. He is giving everything he's got. I love Tim Keenan's game. I think that he is just everything you could want in an Alabama football player. I don't think that he is quite as physically gifted as maybe Quentin Williams was. And he's not as physically gifted as some of the other, the great interior defensive linemen that you might think of in the NFL. But I just think that his motor is so damn high, and I think that he has a determination that says, you know what, I'll give my all every single snap, and I'm just going to end up overwhelming teams. And his physicality, he plays with great technique as well. Great pad level, getting underneath offensive linemen and driving them. And I just think once he gets into you, that you're going to have a hard time moving him. You're going to have a hard time recovering. So I love Tim Keenan's game. Take some time and watch some 96. If you are someone who rewatches the games, then next time you rewatch the South Florida game, put your eyes on 96 every single time he's on the field. He is disrupting things for the Alabama defensive lineman. So he was a really fun watch this past week. And speaking of rewatching, you can check out the 29 things that I noticed this past week rewatching the South Florida game. It's on BamaCentral.com right there on Alabama Crimson Tide on SI. I was up. I started about 8 o'clock on Sunday night, and I hit publish about 5:45 on Monday morning, rewatching, trying to rewind everything, pick up on some trends for Alabama's team this past week against South Florida. Number 3 for us, we're going to talk about Alabama's depth. Really, that's exactly what it was. South Florida, I think, gave their first-line guys, but eventually just sort of wore out. And you saw that really up front for their offensive line and their running game. Byron Brown getting away a couple of different times. And really, they hit on a couple of different edge plays. Kane Womack talking about it after the game and on Monday, saying that Alabama just misfit some of their assignments, and I think that that's the big worry for this defense. If you misfit some of these assignments, you're going to have a tendency to give up some big plays. Luckily for Alabama, it never was a consistent issue. And as we said, Byron Brown showed some inaccuracy passing the football that really served as a deficiency for South Florida. And so Alabama's defense kind of playing with a one-armed man, playing with a one-armed quarterback, not literally, but playing an offense with one hand behind its back with a very minimal passing game. And so, look, you're going to have to fit these runs consistently, and you're going to have to be disciplined with your eyes. A couple of different times, Byron Brown with a little bit of read option and getting away. And I wondered, rewatching, who's got the quarterback? Who's assigned a quarterback? Just a couple of times late, that happened. Obviously, a little bit quarterback draw issues. That became probably one of South Florida's more consistent plays throughout the night. But you're going to live with that. Because look, they're saying that all we can do is spread you out and try to trick you for 4 yards, try to trick you for 6 yards. Obviously, the read option play had a little bit of success, and getting out on the edge had a little bit of success as well. But really, that was the South Florida plan. We're going to try to trick you. I think if they had a quarterback who was more accurate, then Alex Golesh would have had a lot more options to get after you offensively. And this was kind of South Florida's problem last year. They couldn't throw the football, and really it was a Byron Brown going to drop back and scramble for offense last year. This year it was a little more designed quarterback run. But overall, the defense played well. The defense played well. The defense overwhelmed the South Florida offense throughout the entire night, and that's ultimately what ended up happening for Alabama's offense as well. You throw the athletes at the defense over and over and over and over again. Eventually, Ryan Williams on that hitch play is going to beat the defender for a 43-yard touchdown, right? On the drive, the drive with a fumble, 2 drives earlier, you hit the same exact hitch play to Ryan Williams, and the South Florida defender makes the tackle. It was almost the exact same move for Ryan Williams on both plays. And yeah, the first play, the defender makes the tackle. Second play, 2 drives later in the game, doesn't make the tackle. Hollywood Williams down the sideline. See ya. Bye-bye. Late in the game, you got Jam Miller. You got bouncing off tacklers, getting into the end zone. Look, it just became a fatigue issue for the South Florida defense. And yeah, I do think Elijah Pritchett coming in helped Alabama's offense, but I think it just became a weird out of gas issue for the Alabama defense, for the South Florida Bulls. And look, I was in the post game for South Florida. I wasn't in the post game for Alabama this week. And one of the more South Florida beat reporters, I had a coach, I had a question to Alex Golesh, and he was great about answering it. But he had a kind of back and forth. Coach Golesh went back and forth with one of the South Florida reporters about going for it or not going for it, kicking a field goal at 7:36 in the fourth quarter. They were down, 8 points? They were down 13-21 on the 4-yard line, 4th and 4. You all were there. You all remember it. And Alex Golesh called timeout and opted to kick the field goal. And they went back and forth and said, maybe if you'd gone for it, wouldn't have had a letdown. Your team would have carried on the last 7 minutes of the game. He basically said, the reporter kind of insinuated that the decision to kick the field goal, obviously they make the very close field goal to go 16-21. And that was their last points of the night. So that made it a 5-point game? 5-point game, yeah. 16-21 kept it a 1-score game. The reporter insinuated that let all the air out of the room, that let all the air out of the South Florida sideline, that let all the momentum go. And so one of my questions right here, should Alex Golesh have gone for it? Golesh was staunch in his stance. Hey, as the head coach, I'm going to tell you that going for it right there. I'm going to tell you that kicking it was the right move to go to keep it a 1-score game. And when you think about it, I mean, you listen to Alex Golesh's reasoning. He talked about, our defense was playing lights out. Our defense was playing lights, and he's right. Their defense had played well all the way up until the drive earlier. The Kobe Prentice touchdown pass. Jalen Milroe once again climbs the pocket and finds Kobe Prentice. Yeah, his defense had played well. And so I think in the same boat, I would have probably made the same decision as well. You have people, if you don't get it, you've left Alabama 97, 96 yards to go. You've got them backed up, and you might get the ball back on a short field if your defense can continue to play lights out, right? So you can play both sides of the coin there. What do you think? Should Alex Golesh have, obviously, if you're the Alabama fan, you like that they kicked the field goal there because the cushion was only 5 instead of 1 or 0. If they would have gone for it and got a touchdown right there, you never know what would have happened. But Alex Golesh really was happy with his team, except for the last 7 or 8 minutes in the game. And I think that he ended up having a great, great game plan for the day. And I just want to go in here. I'll skip a point. I'll go back to Jalen Milroe, go into point 5. Alex Golesh. If I'm an SEC team, obviously, I think that Alabama has a good coach in Kalen DeBoer through 2 games. But if I am an SEC team in need of a coach, if I am a University of Florida, if I end up being a South Carolina at the end of the year, if South Carolina makes a move, if I'm in Arkansas, right? if I am a coach a program that needs a coach, I'm going after Alex Golesh very, very hard. Obviously, you look at the win-loss record before he got to South Florida and what he's done now, and it's a complete turnaround. Here he is in year number 2, playing Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and those guys had real belief. Those guys came into Tuscaloosa with real belief that they were going to play Alabama well and give themselves a chance to win the game. And ultimately, they did. Alabama really had to step their game up in the fourth quarter. They did. They basically turned the dial up on them in the last 7 minutes, and it was over. Alabama's defense played really, really well the whole game. Really, the whole game. You can talk about it being a very close game, and it was throughout 3 quarters. It was still 14-13 at the start of the fourth quarter. But it was really about Alabama's offensive miscues and Alabama's offensive challenges, the penalties, the turnovers, just the terrible play offensively up front, which was what kept it close. The Alabama defense, you grade the Alabama defense really an A. An A. You're dealing with a fast-paced offense with a dual-threat quarterback. Yes, he showed us some defensive, some accuracy deficiencies. If he had hit some of those deep balls in the first half, you never know how this game would have gone. But the Alabama defense played really, really well. But all that to say, Alex Golesh, if I am a team, if I am a program, if I'm an athletic director looking to make a move and looking to hire a coach, I would be hiring Alex Golesh in a heartbeat. I think that he came in there, no moral victories, second year in a row, no moral victories. Disappointed in his team's ability to finish the game. And really, I think he should be commended. Offensively, they were creative, even with an inaccurate quarterback. Defensively, they were very creative, getting after Alabama's makeshift offensive line. I thought they really had a strong game plan, and I think that they will just like I think Western Kentucky might contend for the Conference USA. Well, I thought that before watching TJ Finley play. I do think that South Florida will contend for the American Conference. The American Conference Championship this season. And so that'll be fun to watch them play. And if you're an Alabama fan watching them this season, you should be rooting for them to do well. You should be, because if they have a good year and win some games, then this performance is not going to make you sweat as bad, and it's going to end up being a good win on the resume. All right, before we get into point 4, and we'll close it down with point number 6, let's tell you about my friend at Derek Daniel State Farm. Derek Daniel is your local State Farm agent for Tuscaloosa, Northport, West Alabama, all of Alabama. You can call him at 205-758-3391. Derek Daniel would love to get you a fresh quote on your home, life, or auto insurance. If you have just moved to the area or you're moving to a new apartment complex, you need renter's insurance, call Derek Daniel today at 205-758-3391. He and his team, Red, Reese, and Victoria, would love to get you a very fast quote. They'd love to get you new information for what you're dealing with. If your properties have changed, if you're buying a car, if you're selling a car, you need to make a move. They can take care of you and make it something that you guys don't have to worry about. Call them today at 205-758-3391. I do not like dealing with insurance. Derek makes it very simple. I just have to shoot him a text, or I have to give him a call right there at 205-758-3391, and he will basically take care of it in 2 or 3 minutes. Make sure all of my needs are taken care of. They're very fast, friendly service over there. You can visit them just up there on 69 North, just off McFarland, just off Highway 82. 4604 Highway 69 North, Northport, Alabama 35473, 1 mile off of McFarland, just past the Tiger Rock on the left. So I appreciate Derek Daniel sponsoring the program, taking care of all of my home life and auto insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel and State Farm is there. Call him today, 205-758-3391. I got 2 more things to talk about today about the South Florida game and this past weekend. We invite you again to comment on the show, comment on the game at Joe Gaither 6, or on the BamaCentral YouTube comments as well on your favorite social media platform at Joe Gaither 6. We want to talk about Jalen Milroe. We want to talk about Jalen Milroe and talk about the discourse and kind of what we saw this week. I heard a lot of, should you go to Ty Simpson? Oh, Jalen Milroe sucks. Oh, Jalen Milroe is no good. And I would contend that Jalen Milroe did not have his best game. 17 of 27, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 12 carries, 2 yards, 2 touchdowns, right? Not that good. Goes from last week's 600-yard performance, 5 touchdown game, 4 touchdowns this week, so okay, still pretty good. But not as efficient. Goodness gracious, not near as efficient. And the home run ball wasn't there near as much. You didn't have as many explosive plays this week against South Florida. It did a really good job of hemming you in. But I think that your offensive line problems really led the problems, really carried the day, really made it difficult to be the quarterback of the Alabama Crimson Tide on Saturday. I don't think that Jalen had a bad game. And do I think that, look, you've got people in my mentions, and I'm not going to mention them by name, but about, Jalen's no good. He's the 6th best quarterback in the SEC. Alabama can't win an SEC title with him, can't win a national championship with him, this, that, and the other. I think that Jalen Milroe still has the skill sets to be great. And I think that he is still learning how this offense works. And I think that anytime you're still learning how an offense works, goodness gracious, when things get changed on you, variables get changed on you, especially offensive line wise, then you have problems. And that's what you saw on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to seeing Jalen Milroe with Caden Proctor. I mean, again, you haven't seen him yet with his starting left tackle this season. I'm looking forward to seeing what he will do when the offensive line kind of settles out. I think that if you grade him, you can't give him anything worse than a B-, right? Because you definitely have negative plays, but you didn't have so many negative plays. You didn't have Jalen Milroe didn't throw the ball away. Jalen Milroe didn't throw the ball to the other team. Of course, he had some inaccurate passes. He missed C.J. Dupree on one of the plays where he rolled out. He missed Ryan Williams over the middle. But the pass rush was in his face all day long. And it was inconsistent all day long. So feeling the rush, obviously that's one area where he can be better about feeling the rush, holding on to the ball too long, making quicker decisions. But you're still working through that early in the season. You're still working through that with the Kalen DeBoer offense. You got to get live reps. And the live reps are what's going to help you. And so I can't give him any worse than a B-. What I really think is probably about a B, probably about an 84, 85. And look, week 1 is probably closer to a 92, 93. And we'd love to see him at a 98, 99, but I think that would just overwhelm the college football world based on his skill set. So Jalen Milroe definitely things to work on, but not the worst game. People over-exaggerating how bad it was this past weekend. Let's conclude it. Let's knock it out. We're right here, 42 minutes. Let's give you a final 2 thoughts. First thing, just a final 1 thought. I think you should trash this game. I think that, look, this is the way that seasons go. I think that you have to have teams, you leave room for teams to grow, especially in this time in college football with so much turnover. And Alabama, obviously, the turnover has been well highlighted. It's all been mostly been on the coaching staff, but it's still been in the personnel department as well. And I think this is what happens when you have a lot of turnover. You didn't play Western Kentucky this week. You played South Florida. A little bit better opponent. Just a little bit, right? A team that was more familiar with you. A team that played you close last year. A team that played inspired. And you also celebrated. You spent the whole week celebrating Nick Saban. And I don't really want to talk about the Nick Saban ceremony because it was a bunch of hooey-gooey corporate hoopla. And look, I get it if you're that Alabama fan who, let's honor Coach Saban. We were there. We got videos for you right there on BamaCentral's YouTube channel. You got the Stuart Bell. You got the Greg Byrne. You got the you got the Miss Terry comments and the Nick Saban comments. And you got the sign unveiling right there in front of Walking Champions on the YouTube comments. But, other than the signage that pop up, it's cool. He's there. But you made the whole weekend about Coach Saban. Okay, so you threw in a distraction for your own team. And you're playing an inspired underdog. And you're playing with a makeshift offensive line, probably the most important position on the field. Everybody says it's quarterback, but if your offensive line isn't right, nothing's right. And you saw that this week. I think you should trash this game. I think it's certainly going to be a game that Alabama can learn from. But as far as will it become tendency? No. Will it become something that becomes habitual? I don't think so. I think that you're going to clean up the penalties. We're going to not have your false starts. Those are two areas. Two false starts? You're going to not have Tyler Booker have a block in the back. There's 3 penalties back right there. Your holdings, you're going to do a little better. Obviously, Geno Vandermark, I don't think he's going to play this week. I think you're going to have Caden Proctor back in the lineup. So you shuffle Tyler Booker back down to left guard. And then what do you do at right tackle? That's going to be the interesting thing. But who ends up winning the right tackle job? You're going to be able to help Wilkin Formby if that's what it is. Once everybody gets back set. Because I think Caden Proctor is going to be able to hold his own on the other side. You're going to be able to game plan for a little help for Wilkin. Or maybe you're going to be able to game plan a way to motivate Elijah Pritchett and to keep him healthy. Keep Elijah Pritchett playing at that fiery level that he was playing at the end of the game. So do you take a lot from this game? Like, oh my gosh, does Alabama is the world on fire in Tuscaloosa? Is the Malmore Athletic Facility burning down? No. This is just a step on the process. You all say, oh, the Nick Saban process, we're committed to the process. We believe in the process. Well, part of the process is growing pains. And I think Kalen DeBoer said it after the game. I know that Nick Saban has said it in the past. We're fortunate to be able to grow and learn from some of these situations while still maintaining the record. 2-0. 2-0, moving on to the next week. 2-0 with lessons learned. 2-0 with film to learn from. 2-0 with experiences in the bank. And you think South Florida, you send them back and you say, we'll see you in 2026. Come on and give us your best shot again. I think that while you obviously are not happy about the performance, and I think that you're absolutely, if you're the Alabama fan that wants to carry your emotions the whole week, you don't want to be happy about it, that's fine. But I don't think you should project it into the whole year. I do think that everything that you saw on Saturday is correctable. Look, 3 turnovers, 3 fumbles. You fumble a snap. That's totally correctable. That's a attention to detail issue. And I don't know. It looked like Parker Brailsford may have thought that Jalen Milroe was in the shotgun. I mean, he fired that snap back there. I don't know if he thought he was in the shotgun or not. But those are correctable issues. Kendrick Law, fumble to kickoff return. That's a correctable issue. Jam Miller, fumble, correctable issue. I think that everything that you saw on Saturday that was, oh, that's bad football, man, is a correctable issue. And what was the end result of some bad football? Oh, yeah, still a 26-point victory. They still sent you home comfortable. They still sent you home wearing the win. Okay, I know if you're a gambler, it sucked. You lost the money if you gambled on Alabama. And that's partly, that's negative emotion. That's part of what you play when you play the line, right? That's not the boys' fault. That's not the player's fault. I did think it was very interesting how the coaching staff approached the offensive line issues and the injuries because Elijah Pritchett was very clearly able to play. Obviously, they didn't want to expose him by playing him at left tackle, but they felt like, okay, we need to get Wilkin Formby off the field before his confidence is shot too much further, right? So I think that I think that's why he gets thrown in the game, and obviously he performs well. And so what does that mean going forward? We're going to try to figure that out over the next couple of days and find out who's going to be playing on Saturday for Alabama, and that's the next test up there in Camp Randall. We're going to be going up there. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to get up there. It's going to be a lot of fun on Saturday, 11 a.m. Camp Randall Stadium. Jump around at the end of the third quarter. I came to win. What is it? Let me pretend I came to win. Oh, I cannot wait for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So appreciate everybody giving me the extra day because I stayed up till late watching the game over again. You can read about all my thoughts if you want to read about it. And I've got every snap, every clip that I talk about in video form as well. So if you missed the game, that might be a good way for you to rewatch the game as well. Drive by drive by drive. You can skip ahead to the next drive if you don't want to watch Alabama's 3 and outs. Or if you do want to watch some of the pass protection breakdowns, they're right there at BamaCentral.com. Alabama Crimson Tide on SI. It's 29 things that I noticed from Alabama's 42-16 win. I encourage you guys to watch it. It's got, at least if nothing else, video footage of playback from the game this weekend. So we'll get out of here for the day and be back to talk to you again tomorrow after talking to Alabama's assistant coaches. I'm guessing that we'll hear from former Wisconsin assistant coach Colin Hitchler. From there, it'll be interesting to hear who we hear from. Maybe they'll give us Jamarcus Shepard. He is always entertaining. We heard from Freddie Roach 2 weeks ago, I believe, so there might be a chance that we hear from him. They might hold Chris Kapilovich back away, the offensive line coach, but if we do, he will certainly be one that you will want to hear from. We'll thank Purple Turtle Roofing again as we get out of here for the day. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-787-6635. One of their qualified employees will come out and give you a free roof inspection. You can visit them online at roofturtle.com. Purple Turtle Roofing is the most reliable residential roof replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi. Whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there, and they'll deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. You know that it's been decent weather so far, but there's another storm coming. Make sure you call Purple Turtle Roofing to prepare for any and all of life's storms. We'll get out of here for the day. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on the BamaCentral YouTube channel and right here on BamaCentral.com.